Welcome to Jay's Naughty Wood. It's a one-man shop. This is my journey into woodworking.
Man of Steel series, episode 1. This project started out because Man of Steel won a raffle. I raffle off these projects live on stream. Once a goal is met, we raffle off. The goal is set to a price point, and all of that price point money that's earned goes into the project. Essentially, a community funded custom project for whoever gets drawn. Anyway, he and I had discussed this, and the build begins here. I wanted to take his logo and recreate it as best as I could with wood. I also wanted to make it 3D in nature. His logo is essentially a 5 wrapped in steel wiring, braided steel, etc. With that said, it's production time. I had to just trust my thought process here and what was in my head. I didn't really have a way to know how these pieces would look until I got enough of the pieces to start forming what I thought would be the build. As you can see here, we have multiple pieces. I ended up actually making these smaller. I had a bunch of the long ones, but this section of the video is actually showing an adjustment from later on in the series, and we'll discuss that then. These shapes are essentially oversized handles, if you will, all cut on the bandsaw using 2x3 boards to get the initial rough shape. So there are many of them, and the idea here is to create that 3D band steel look. I took a round over bit on the trim router over each of these pieces, every side, every angle, every single piece. There's 27 pieces, something like that. At this point, I am just trying to generate as many of these pieces as possible and just crank them out. This took some time, and the whole ordeal in the thought process and problem solving took some more time just because I ran into the thought on what you'll see is this structure coming up is I couldn't turn a corner. So that's where the small pieces you saw earlier came into play later on in the process. Here we have the process and thought process of the internal structure there, the 5, and we're looking at the S, putting these all out. now that I've generated enough of these shapes, I was going to actually make this two-sided here. This is one of the many different ideas that ended up being tossed out at some point because of weight, his location, where his plan was putting it. We also had at some point it sitting on a Lazy Susan and being able to carousel in a circle, but that ended up getting tossed too because this thing ended up pretty large. All right, now we have a bunch of these things put together, and I'm sitting here looking at it going, I can't turn that corner. We're working through it and having a conversation here about what's going on and how we're going to do this. Here's the idea that comes through. As I'm placing these in this S, I'm realizing this baby is large. So it's time to problem solve and adjust that thought process and get it to the shape because that big is already about 3 feet. So we need to adjust. And here's the ultimate adjustment with the big shapes, and I come up with the problem solved situation of those smaller cuts that you saw earlier.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment. Leave feedback. Whatever you want to do, hit that share button. And I will see you next time on Jay's Naughty World.